My friends, I'm very happy to be with you once again, one more Friday. Remember, I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez. I'm the medical director of BioCare Hospital in Tijuana, Mexico. And we come to you through the courtesy of Truth Be Told Radio Network. It's a fantastic network where you can find so many resources in so many areas that I would absolutely advise you to follow them and to be with them. We broadcast this program every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can follow us on a repeat program every Saturday morning at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And you can go to Spotify. And if you go to Spotify, you can search for Truth Be Told Radio Network. And when you do that, you're going to find countless of programs like this that touch on so many aspects of health and disease and health management and also management of disease, sick people, and health problems that you're going to be amazed on how much information you can get from it. Not necessarily that you have to agree with it, but I think it's an eye-opener. It's a conversation piece. It's something you can ask your friends, your co-workers, church members, say, why don't you listen to this? And let's talk about it. Because after all, we have a fantastic gift, a God-given gift of life, and we have to take care of it. We have to take care of this body of ours, and we actually have given the rules. We should know better, because if you open your Bible, you're going to find many occasions where the Bible is going to talk about health maintenance and health management and lifestyle and so on, that the only reason why we don't do it is because we don't pay attention or we just ignore it. So I would ask you to read it, to listen to it, and then start thinking of it. And when you start thinking of it, when you gather with other people that you love, and say what you think of this, I'm sure that you are going to come to the conclusion that's very important information. Now, as a doctor, I get to hear everything. Really. Sometimes I say, oh my God, how can this be possible? How can people believe this or the other? Because so many people give opinions that sometimes they're even conflicting, opposite, and so forth. So you have to search. You have to move all the thing and try to get a clear idea of what you really want to know, what you really want to learn. And to do that, you have a good friend. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and you can go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, anything, just the social media of your choice. I'm there. So all you have to do is ask a question. And when you ask the question, I'm going to get right back to you, and then we can either have a conversation or hopefully you're going to get the answer you're looking for. And today, every week we choose a subject. And today, what I thought is talking about lost in translation. I thought, well, when you talk about medicine, when you talk about nutrition, when you talk about all this, there are very few areas more confusing, more complex to understand than facts. So I decided to call this segment Fat Facts. What's true, what is not? What are facts? What are the myths? What is the truth? Because if we start understanding facts, you're going to be starting to be healthier. Let me explain. In general, every time we talk about fats, we think about it as something bad. Fats have been vilified by many. They have really vilified. Why? Because obesity is fat. So it has to be bad. Because when you go to the doctor and you talk to friends, people tell you don't eat fats. And then they tell you you have to choose your fats, don't eat these ones, don't eat the other ones. So fats have become kind of a big issue, but rather than a big issue, a completely misunderstood subject when it comes to human nutrition and to human composition. Because after all, a good part of our body is fat. So, no, you cannot say fats shouldn't be in your diet because you're going to kill yourself. You shouldn't eat fats, forget about that. We have to eat fats. In particular, there's a group of fats that we call the essential fatty acids. What is essential? In medicine, we call any nutrient essential when that nutrient cannot be produced by the body. So I either bring it in my diet, I bring it in my body, or I'm not going to have it at all. Let me give you a very simple example. We have countries that are oil producers, but there are countries in the world that do not produce one drop of oil. Now, both countries have cars and factories and electricity and you name it. All of them need this energy. What they do? Well, countries like America, well, we pump it in Texas or in Alaska. But what happens with countries that don't have it? Let's say Spain. You have to bring it from abroad. If not, you're not going to survive. That's what essential means. It's a substance that's absolutely important to your well-being and function, but we cannot make it in the body. There are many things we produce in the body. Our body is, after all, a very complex metabolic machine. Metabolic means change, chemical change. So we can produce a lot of things within our body, but essential fatty acids, we can't. So they have to come in the diet. And we have three groups which are particularly important. Number one, let me tell you, the way essential fatty acids are long carbon chains that finish in one part as with the acid radical. That's why we call it fatty acids. Okay, and those fatty acids have a beginning and an end. In other words, we choose one part of the acid to call it the alpha carbon, and the last one we call it the omega. Now, when you count from the omega to the alpha, you go backwards, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons. We count it until we find a double bond. That's a chemical situation in which the chain, which was flat, twists. And that, if it happens in the carbon number 3, we call it omega 3. If it happens in the 6, we call it omega 6. If it happens in the 9, 9. The important thing is this. When you can twist the molecule of a fat, the molecule becomes more flexible and has different functions. So, eating fat in your diet requires that we take some of this, some of that, some of the other. You follow me? So, what we have to do is we have to eat a good proportion of fats. Now, let's go to the Bible again. Let's go to Leviticus. And when we look at Leviticus and we see what we should be eating, And when we go to Genesis and we say these are the animals that are going to be given for your nourishment, and these are the plants and the fruits, etc., you almost have a perfect balance between nutrients. In other words, if you go to your Bible, it doesn't take too far to find out that fish was a very important food at the time. And fish is filled with good, very good omega 3s, actually. The omega 3s are all those essential fatty acids that are connected to health, to well-being, to low inflammation, to a very good immunity, to very good hormonal. So essential fatty acids are very important. So don't let anybody telling you that fats are bad for you. Fats are very good food. We just have to choose them. And the best way to do it is go back to your Bible, which to me is the first and foremost health manual ever written. And then you have your fruits and your nuts. Nuts have a lot of omega-3s, but you have to crack them open. Because once you expose the nut to the heat, you destroy the omega-3s. So you shouldn't buy roasted, oven heat processed nuts. You should buy your whole nuts, crack them open. I have always said, if you're going to eat nuts, make sure you need a nut cracker, not a can opener. If you have to use a can opener, you're going in the wrong direction. You're eating bad fat, lots of salt, probably sugar, which is added to a lot of things, and lots of calories. That's it. But if you want nutrition, then you have to get your nuts in the shell and thus crack them open. We have to talk about all these facts because when you start thinking of them, we're going to start going through the fog and we're going to start understanding fats. Why are they important and which ones we cannot be without? I'll be back with you. Friends, I'm back. I'm all geared up because we're talking about fat facts. Lost in translation, as I say, because there's so much misunderstanding, misinformation, and so forth about fats that we don't know what to do. And in many cases, we do terrible mistakes. Like, well, if fats are a problem, stay away from them. Avoid them. But when you do that, you're creating a problem. Because fats are very important for human nutrition. And we were talking that some of those fats are essential, which means the body cannot make them, but we need them. And if we don't take them, we will not be able to produce them and we're going to be sick. A very good example about an essential nutrient, very simple, very important, and just the perfect example of what essential means in nutrition is vitamin C. If you recall your history lessons, you have to remember that in the first transatlantic trips from Europe to America, a lot of people died. And in the beginning, they didn't know what was going on. They were just dying. And they were dying because they took a lot of dry food And the fish they could collect or things, or very simple things, most of them very preserved foods, but nothing fresh. So vitamin C was not in the diet. And because the body cannot make the vitamin C, people developed a disease that's called scurvy. And scurvy can kill you. If you don't correct it on time, it's going to kill you. So many people die. It was not until they discovered this fact that they could make safe trips through the ocean because they were carrying oranges and limes and lemons and you name it. They were taking all these citrus fruits and they could avoid scurvy and they could have all these very long trips and have, the rest is history. We know what happened. But it would not have been possible if we were not capable of fulfilling this essential nutrient, the vitamin C. So in fats, we have what we call the essential fatty acids. And we have talked about omega-3s. One important fact about fats, just to show you how important they are, when we think about omega-3s, our brain, we keep it up here. What can be better than our brain? That's what makes us what we are. That's what allows me to see you, to talk to you, to meet you, to have a conversation with you. My brain is what makes my dreams. My brain stores my knowledge. My brain gives me answers when I need them and shows me the way to new problems. But the brain is actually a lot of nervous cells in an ocean of fats. If we didn't have enough fat in the brain would just dry out and we'd be dead. So it is that important. Let's talk about another very important essential fatty acid. I'm going to go by numbers. Let me talk about omega-6. Omega-6 is also a little bit misunderstood. Number one, because I have seen a lot of people that vilify it because, yes, it can produce problems. It can actually produce health problems. Whereas omega-3s, fish, will never give you any problem. Raw nuts will never give you any problem. But omega-6s, yes. Why? Because the omega-6 supply of the human diet today comes from a factory. Because we get omega-6s not from seeds, which is where we should be getting it from. We're getting it from grains. And then we eat canola oil, all these sort of vegetable oils, which are not really vegetable oil. They're grain oils. They're extracted through an industrial process in which we solve the fat in the grain with fat solvents. They usually come from oil derivatives. They come from petroleum. And once the oil is extracted, then we have to get rid of this substance, and then we have to change the color, and then we have to change the flavor, and then we have to do this and this and this and this. And as a good friend of mine always said, my food ended up coming from a factory, not from nature. So that's one of the problems. The other problem is it is very inexpensive. It's actually cheap in more ways than one. So we use it. We use it a lot. That's what we call the vegetable oils and shortening. Shortening is not a natural fat either, as is lard or butter. It's an artificial fat made out of these oils extracted from grains. And the problem with them is that omega 6s can help inflammation. Now, let's be reasonable. Inflammation is a mechanism of defense without which humans would not exist. Every time we have an aggressor, a bacteria, a trauma, a problem, it is our inflammatory system, the one that faces this condition, defeats the condition, and brings healing. So what's wrong with that? Except that we eat so many omega 6s, so much vegetable oil, because it's in cookies, it's in food, it's in cakes, it's in fried food. Okay? What is more American than fries? They're cooked in this vegetable oil. If you go to Europe, for example, fries come from Belgium, but it's made with an animal fat, not with a vegetable oil. And that's a fat that God gave us. That doesn't come from a factory. So my good friend always said, eat the foods that God provided us with as close as they are in nature as possible. The less you play with them, the better off, the healthier you're going to be. So these fats we eat just too much. According to certain papers, we see that we have about 20 times the amount of omega 6s that we should consume in a day. But according to many other papers, it goes up to 40 times. Now, too much of a good thing can be a problem, and this is one of them. If instead of having this amount of omega 6s, we have this huge amount, we're overwhelmed. We're going to be with an overload, and this is going to produce an almost constant inflammatory reaction. And that's what we're looking at people with. That's the problem that we're living with today. Because when you have so many omega 6s, you're going to trigger a basic inflammatory condition that's going to linger in your body for months and years and so on. And that's what we call chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is killing 7 out of 10 people today in America. 7 out of 10, chronic inflammation. And we're fueling this chronic inflammation with the amount of vegetable oils and shortening that we're eating every day. Just take any packed food. Take chips. Take fast food. Take a cake. Ice cream. Do you think ice cream is made with cream? Think again. Margarine. Mayonnaise. All those are staple foods. We eat them on and on, every day, in good amounts. And if you go from a hamburger with mayo, and then you go to a piece of cake with this type of shortening, and then you go to ice cream, you're eating, there you have it, 20, 30, 40, or probably more times the amount of omega 6s you should be eating. Your body is going to react in a way we don't want it to react. So what we have to do is we have to get away from them. See, there are many seeds that produce the omega 6s, and if we eat good seeds, if we eat a normal diet, we will probably have enough or more than enough omega 6s. I always say, eat as if you were living 100 years ago. And 100 years ago, a lot of the things that I'm mentioning were not even available. So people were safe. I'm going to tell you something, and you don't have to believe me. You can go to internet today and check how frequent was heart attack in America at the turn of the 20th century. Go to 1905, 1910, 1920, and you're going to see that heart attack, strokes, chronic inflammation were virtually unknown. And because you have all this inflammation ready to pop up, then you have also allergies and asthma and other problems. So think again when you choose the food you're about to consume. Don't go anywhere. I want you waiting for me there. I don't know about you, but I'm having a lot of fun. I'm I'm excited because I hope you're listening to me and you are getting some ideas on how you can change your life. Because believe me, my quest at this point in my life is to make sure you are healthy. To make sure that if you ever come to my hospital, is because you want to be healthier, stronger, because you want to work on rejuvenation, in restoration. I don't want to see you sick. It breaks my heart. Every time I see sick people, it breaks my heart. It's never fun. Even in the best, even in the most successful cases, it's never fun. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and I want you to consider me your friend. I want you to think of me as someone you can trust, that you can call, that you can get an answer from, and a good friend I could ask questions. So any question you have in your mind, any comment, anything you want to know, I'll be very happy to talk to you. And I hope that you listen to me every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that at Truth Be Told Radio Network. But the best way to do it is go to Spotify. And Spotify, you search for Truth Be Told Radio Network. And there you're going to find so much information, so many resources, not only from us, but from other people. So I know this can be your future choice in getting information, in getting inspiration, in getting guidance. Because I really care for you, I really want you to know that. So remember, your friend is Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital. And you can go to the social media of your choice and you're going to find me there. And today we're talking about fats. And the reason I want to talk about fats is because I'm a doctor. I see patients every day. I go to the hospital every day. I share with other physicians, I share with patients, I share with nursing, with the kitchen, with everybody, and I get all these questions and all these comments, particularly from people when they say, but doctor, they told me that fats are bad for you. Wait a minute. That's as bad as saying, I heard people are bad. No way. I know some people that could be saints. And yes, I have heard, I haven't met, thank goodness, but I have heard of people that don't even have a soul, that are very mean. But same with fats. We have fats that are fantastic, that are part of ourselves, that fulfill very important functions. And that's what we're talking about today. The omega 3s, which are anti inflammatory, health giving, that are the famous fats of fish. Every time you talk about a healthy food, we think of what? Salmon. Why? Salmon is omega 3s. On the other hand, we have omega 6s, which are not necessarily bad in themselves, but we have an overload of them. We eat 40 times the amounts we should be eating. That's unhealthy. I mean, 40 times the amount of certain food is absolutely unhealthy. I don't even have to discuss what it is. We should never eat 40 times the things we're about to eat. Same happens with beef. Every time I see a tomahawk beef or a 16-ounce piece of meat, that's not for human consumption. Let's be reasonable. We were given a body and we were given the rules. All we have to do is obey, follow the rules, and we're going to be healthy and we're going to be in good shape just by taking care of our bodies. And that's what we're talking about today. Let me talk about the next fat that I absolutely love. I'm going to talk now about one of my favorites, which are omega 9s. Omega 9s, you don't hear too much about them. You hear about the 3s a lot, 6 some. Omega 9s, people don't talk too much about them, but yet they're very important. Because omega 9s are what's called the oleic acid. And that's a very, very healthy, good news all over essential fatty acid. What is that? Olive oil. If I counted how many times a day or a week people ask me, Doctor, should I have this oil? Should I have this other oil? Doctor, I heard about this. Doctor, I heard about that. There's not one day when someone doesn't ask me, either by internet or by phone call or personally, Doctor, I heard that this oil is very good. And I said, no, don't look around. You don't have to look around because we have olive oil. Do you know how long we have had olive oil on our tables? Probably 10,000 years. 6,000 years for sure. Because they have found these jars, these clay jars, in the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea filled with olive oil and dated 6,000 years. But most importantly, guess what? The oil was very good because it's very stable. All you have to do is, when you have it at home, is close it well and keep it in a dark, cool place. That's it. And it'll last you for months, if not years. Olive oil is very, very easy to handle. And this omega 9 is anti-inflammatory. It lowers your blood pressure. It cleanses your vascular tree, improves your heart function. In Spain, where else but in Spain, that they're one of the biggest producers in the world of olive oil, they have conducted very important medical studies where they prove that just taking 1 ounce of olive oil a day can lower your blood pressure. 1 ounce of olive oil a day will improve your heart function, will diminish your risk of strokes or vascular problems. Just 1 ounce, that's a shot. You fill this. I have several friends that fill a shot glass and they put a little bit of lime, mix it and drink it. Doesn't take too much. And when people tell me, Doctor, but I heard that coconut, I heard that avocado, I heard that grapeseed oil, etc. Yes, but those oils have been around for what, 50 years at the most? Why don't you go for the very well proven, for the oil that was in the Last Supper's table. When Jesus was having the Last Supper, he probably had olive oil on the table because that's the area where olive oil comes from. And if you have been to Israel, you're going to see the whole place full of olive trees. Now, many researchers say, but many say the best way to eat is go for the Mediterranean diet. Well, guess what? Olive oil is the unsung hero of the Mediterranean oil. So if you don't want to do the whole thing, all you have to do is have an ounce of olive oil every day. You can put it with a little bit of balsamic vinegar and just soak a piece of bread in it and have it. It's very delicious. Okay. What other forms of omega-9s we can have? Oleic acid. Guess what? Lard. Pork's lard. Actually, Spaniards have a saying that says that a pork is an olive with feet. And America ate and cooked with lard up to the time I was mentioning, up to the turn of the 20th century. And heart attacks were virtually unknown. That's how important lard can be, because that's what we ate, and we were very healthy. There is a person that you have probably heard of is Dr. Robert Atkins. Dr. Robert Atkins is one of the very important people in replanning the American diet in the last probably 50 years. Dr. Atkins is a man that really redesigned a lot of the American diet as we understand it today. But he always talked about what he called the French paradox. What is the French paradox? The French paradox is that French people eat 3 times the amounts of fat that Americans eat. But French people have only 1/3 of the heart and vascular disease that Americans have. Why? Because they choose their fats. They have olive oil, they have lard, and they have butter, real butter. And we're going to talk about that. And that is the big difference. The other huge difference that we're not going to talk about today, but I have a program for you about it, is sugar. Because we're talking about fats, we have to talk about carbohydrates, carbs. Well, too much sugar gives you the problem. So it's not the fat, it's your fat choices and sugar. So when you start putting all this information together, then you understand what are going to be my food choices next week. I'm going to have fish 2-3 times a week. That's what we should be doing. Preferably deep ocean fish, like swordfish, cod. Cod is fantastic. You don't have to do salmon, but cod is a fantastic fish, and swordfish, and any sort of deep ocean fish. And raw nuts, olive oil, and you can cook with lard. Don't forget bacon. I'm going to be right back with you. And yes, you can send me that question. It's lingering in your mind right now. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital, and I'm having a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, because I'm touching on a subject that I have always wanted to discuss with you. And I want to discuss it with you because I take it for granted that many of your questions are shared by the people that talk to me every day, by my patients, by people I talk to, by people I meet on meetings. I go to meetings, health meetings, and so on, and I get a lot of questions. And I have found a lot of misunderstanding about fats. I mean, even from professional people, I find so conflicting things, and we cannot separate one thing from the other. That's probably what bothers me the most. Uh, I have known people that tell me, well, they told me I shouldn't eat that much fat. And I said, that much fat is what? Is it the same butter than margarine, than mayo, than uh, any seed oil, than olive oil, than lard? I don't think so. And actually, it's not. Some of the fats that I have mentioned, they're healing, they're anti inflammatory, they're health producer. And some of them, yes, they can give you problems, particularly if we eat too much. Remember, not necessarily too much of a good thing is good. Okay, keep that in mind. A lot of those sayings are pure wisdom. They're not just a saying. I'm not saying this just because. I'm saying this because I have lived through this. And when you talk to your mother, when you talk to your grandmother, when you talk to your great grandmother, when you look at a book that was written 100 years ago, you're going to find a lot of information. You say, why people said this? Because it's true. And the older you get, the more you understand this wisdom. And it'd be foolish not to follow it, not to reflect at least on what's being said. So we're talking about three of the most important essential fatty acids. We talked about omega-3s and 6 and 9s. And we talked about the advantage of all of them. And I beg you to reduce the amount of omega-6s any way you can. You know, I have a very common question. People tell me, Doctor, okay, you talked very highly about olive oil, but I have read, and you probably have that question in your mind, but I have read, I have heard that olive oil is not good for frying. I'm going to answer this. Simple. Yes, you can fry with olive oil because it actually has a smoking point much higher than canola or uh, corn oils and vegetable oils. So yes, you can fry with olive oil. But now let me tell you the next thing. Fried food is not for human consumption, period. You can do it on your birthday, you can do it every now and then. And once again, you can go to the web and see where fries come from. Not from France, they come from Belgium. But you're going to see how they were made, and they were made with animal fat. Okay, actually from cattle. And that is the fat they used to do the things because they are much better for deep frying. But frying with all these oils is not wise, particularly because we eat too much of that. One good way to cook is to use water. What do you mean by water, doctor? I mean steam, boil, simmer, because water will evaporate at 100 degrees centigrade. And that's safe. You will never go beyond. Whereas when you fry, you are 3, 4, 5 times as high. That upsets the whole molecular structure of the food you're about to eat. There's one particular area that I want to touch. I don't want to leave this program without touching on it. Fat in milk. Should I have butter? Should I have 2%? Should I have low fat? Etc. Number one, you have to make sure you get good milk. What is good milk? Good milk is a product that comes from a healthy animal. And we have to remember that a cow is a ruminant. It has different stomachs. It's going to eat grass. And that grass is going to go through different processes so the cow can take the energy from it. You and I could not survive just grazing. They can because they have a very specific, very different digestive system. But to have a healthy cow, you have to take them out to be grass-fed. So next time you're about to buy milk or milk products, you have to make sure they come from grass-fed animals because they are the ones that are going to have the good essential fatty acids. And one is very important. It's called transpalmitolate. Now, transpalmitolate, forget about the word, forget about the chemical thing, is an essential fatty acid that controls sugar levels, helps insulin, diminishes the sensitivity to insulin. So your chances of becoming diabetic go down and down and down. What are we doing today? What we're doing today, and that's what we're feeding our children, is we're buying milk and milk products from grain-fed animals. They're given corn. They don't graze. They're given corn. Corn is an unnatural food for cattle. So you get a faulty product, and that faulty product gives you problems. And then you take all the fat out, and guess what? Diabetes is running rampant in our younger generation. We have to help them. How? Educating ourselves, learning what to do. Go to the market and say, I'm going to buy the best milk I can get, grass-fed, organic, free-range cattle. And people tell me, is that going to be the same price? No, but it's a lot better to buy high-quality milk than to pay for insulin. Insulin is a lot more expensive, and it comes with a doctor, with a needle, with laboratory, with lots of gadgets to control your diabetes. If you have a child, for goodness sake, ask before you feed them. Soda pop is not for children. Fried food is not for children. Low-fat milk is not for children. Cheap milk is not for children. You have a responsibility. You have to make them grow big and healthy. So I want you to think, because it's very important, that you have a friend, that you actually have a whole hospital to serve you. If you are in any of these circumstances where the lack of equilibrium or poor food choices in your life or poor lifestyles, and you want to recover control of everything, and you want to be at the helm once again, why don't take a 10-day getaway at BioCare and come here and visit the kitchen and see what we prepare and see how we prepare it and see how careful, how I could say loving, but it's a lot more than that. We treat food with a lot of responsibility because that's what we're going to feed our patients with. And depending on that nutrition is going to be the rate and the capacity of recovery. It's like when you have a plant at home. If you don't know how to take care of it, it's going to wilt, period. But you have to say, I think I can save this situation. And if you have a disease, much more important, because you're going to have a full hospital and doctors and nurses and a lot of medical capacity, but everything is going to be supported by people that understand what your body really needs. And detoxification, oxidative therapies, cleansing of the body, restoration of the intestinal flora, making sure that everything works to its best is what we do. It's what we have been doing for nearly 40 years. We have been here for nearly 40 years. And most of our staff has been from the beginning. They understand. They have a heart. They have compassion. And they will be able to answer a lot of your questions when you're here. We have so many testimonials. All you have to do is go to our webpage or Facebook and talk to people that have been here. And you can say, I think this year my vacation time is going to be my restoration, my renewal time, because I want to be there for my family. I want to be there for everybody that loves me, and I want to be enjoying my life. So do it. Don't think too much about it. You owe it to yourself, and I'm going to be very happy to welcome you here. We can have a nice long talk, and we can show you the best way to take care of yourself. Next week, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about carbs.